programme we'll be taking a look at Black Rock, the Marina Walk, Black Rock Castle and the developing area of Mahon. The Marina Walk is situated literally on the banks of the Lee, and it has been a favourite haunt of generations of Cork people. The first attempt to lay out the marina occurred in 1763, when a solid limestone wall was erected from the municipal buildings eastwards to Black Rock, in an attempt to prevent the river channel from being choked with mud. The wall was 4 feet wide, with the river on one side and slobland on the other, and it became popularly known as the Navigation Wall. The wall, however, replaced Dundanian Quay, later renamed King's Quay, which stretched from Dundanian Castle downstream to Black Rock Castle. A second King's Quay was in the Ballintemple townland to the west, where now runs Monaghan Road. It was from Dundanian Quay in August 1682 that William Penn, the Quaker, is reputed to have sailed to America on the Welcome and founded the state of Pennsylvania. The quays themselves were a hive of activity and must have presented a beautiful sight when viewed from Tivoli, with the masts of ships towering over Dundanian Castle and Black Rock Castle. All that's left to remind us of those days is the ruin here behind me of Dundanian Castle, which used to be the seat of some of the old mayoral and mercantile families of Cork, such as the Roaches, the Galways and the Nagels, who resided here until the 1730s. And as a matter of interest, David Nagle, who lived here, was the grandfather of Nano Nagle, the founders of the Presentation Sisters. By the dawn of the 19th century, however, the river channel at low water was only 4 feet deep, and this made it impossible for larger ships to enter the city. And for those who did, they often experienced great difficulty. Many methods were used to deepen the channel, but to no avail, until the formation of the Cork Harbour Commissioners in 1813. So a development plan to improve the channel and port was put into action. A dredger was purchased, and the silt taken from the river was redeposited behind the navigation wall, and with the continual dumping of mud, it eventually led to the creation of the marina, as we know today, as well as Albert Road, Victoria Road, Monaghan Road, Centre Park Road and Kennedy Quay. One of the first commercial bodies to avail themselves of this newly made ground was the Cork Black Rock Passage Railway Company, when they built a station on Albert Road, now Metal Products, and laid a line along the marina. The first train to puff its way out of the terminus was on Saturday, June the 8th, 1850, and the last was on December the 8th, 1932. Today, a section of the old track can be seen here at the junction of the marina and the Centre Park Road, and part of the old railway line itself, which ran between the marina and Rochestown, has been turned into an amenity walk by the corporation. The marina remained treeless until 1856, when Professor Murphy of the Queen's College, now UCC, decided to use part of it for crop growing demonstrations, and so a double row of young elms were planted along the riverbank. Many of these have survived and can still be seen today standing along the wall. In March 1869, the corporation leased a portion of the made ground to Sir John Arnott and others for the purpose of establishing a racecourse. This plot of ground is situated between the present Monaghan Road and Centre Park Road, Victoria Road and the showgrounds. It was named the Cork Park Racecourse, and the first race meeting to be held there was on the 17th and 18th of May 1869, and the last was held on the historic Easter Monday of 1916. During its lifetime, the park became the venue for political and temperance meetings. The military used it for parading, and the Munster Agricultural Society held its annual show there until they purchased their present ground in 1891. I'm standing here on the marina, and behind me you can see the sign which reads Marina Commercial Park. But it wasn't always like that. Things have changed. In January 1917, Henry Ford of Detroit purchased the old Cork racetrack from the corporation, and under the agreement they leased 1,300 acres of land with river frontage of 1,700 feet. Ollie Lyons spent a lifetime working with Fords. Ollie, when did you first begin to work at Fords?
I started with Fords in 1941. Went away to England then, and we came back in 1946. We started back here in 1946.
What sort of a workforce did you have in those days?
Pardon?
What sort of a workforce did you have?
Well, it was only a skeleton staff who was working here during the war. They did work for the army and other small jobs, like, you know. Only a handful were here. Like.
And what sort of turnover would you have had in terms of vehicles in the 40s?
At the time, nothing.
Nothing?
No, only army vehicles.
Army vehicles at that stage, yeah. What would you say would have been Ford's highest point?
Highest point would be, I suppose, as regards production, you mean, no? In the 80s, I say.
Right.
We were up then to 80-odd vehicles a day, like, you know.
Yeah. And automation came in then?
Well, it was inclined to come in that time, you see. They were getting in robots and that, you know.
Right.
Like the late 70s, early 80s.
What was your first wage?
My first wage, and my first wage was in England, actually. For 72 hours, night shift, £11 a week, all money.
Real money?
All money, yeah, that's the real money.
Now, when Ford's closed, the workers were laid off.
Yeah.
But it was more than that, really. It was the end of an era, wasn't it?
It was really, you know, because there was so many different people affected by it, like, outside of Fords at all, no, like, you know.
Yeah.
People that were supplying Fords and stuff and all that, no, they were all, basically, they were all affected by it, you see. And it was detrimental to the city, really.
Yeah.
Because...
if you had a job with Fords in the old days?
In the old days, if you could get into Fords, you might be laid off a couple of times, like, you know, but you were always on the books. You were called back when they got busy again, you see.
Yeah.
But, like, you won't see that anymore, no. There'll be no long-term jobs anymore, no.
Any regrets?
No, really. We worked hard there, very hard at times. But we were at times we were very well treated. Mostly we were very well treated. Because it was more or less like one big happy family. I wouldn't say happy all the time, like. But
you've good memories?
Good memories.
What sort of characters worked there?
Oh, God, no, we had all sorts of characters there, like, you know. And with lots of the people there, you could have built an All-Ireland team because you had great characters. Like in the old days, no, you had Georgie Garrett and Hawk O'Grady, the All-Ireland hurlers, like, you know. Fox Collins, no, he's still alive, thank God. And Joe Hartnett, all those old hurlers, like, you know, they were all working here. You had footballers then, Florrie Burke, they used to play for Ireland and Cork. And you had Timmy Callan, who used to play for Cork Gaelic team, and lots of others.
Having served the city for over 70 years, Fords finally closed their doors in 1984, along with their neighbours Dunlops. Dublin University Boat Club can claim to be the oldest in Ireland, but here on the marina we can proudly boast of having 3 of the most popular boating clubs in the country. And the second oldest in Ireland is the Lee Rowing Club, founded in 1850. The other 2 are Shandon, founded in 1875, and Cork Boat Club, established in 1899. These 3 clubs can boast of having won every trophy in the game. Regatta Day on the marina was always something special. the place would be thronged with people of all ages and from all walks of life. On the north side of the river, the wall would be lined with spectators watching or cheering on the hard-working, sweating crews, amidst the music of the butera or the baraka echoing from the marina bandstand. Did you know that on the lower portion of the marina, there was a section of it called Gunpowder Quay? And it was from here in days gone by that the gunpowder which was manufactured in Ballincollig was shipped. There are many relics of an old seafaring age scattered along the marina, and among them is this cannon, which was the remains of the guns of Sebastopol, which was captured by the British during the Crimean War and subsequently presented to Cork. Another is an iron cylinder, which once held a flagpole 140 feet high, which was the pride of the marina a century ago. And under the shadow of the pole stood an elegant wooden bandstand, and the marina caretaker's house, which have long disappeared into the archives of the past. Also along the marina is the Atlantic Pond. It's surrounded by footpaths and grassy slopes, and it's situated on a site which was once an insect-infested swamp. The Lord Mayor of Cork, Alderman Micheál Martin TD, has a special interest in the Atlantic Pond.
When I became Lord Mayor, I decided to make the restoration of the Atlantic Pond to its former glory as one of my projects as Lord Mayor for the year. Now, there was a committee in existence under the chairmanship of Dermot O'Mahony of people who had lived here as young people and who still live in the general vicinity and who were anxious to do something about restoring the Atlantic Pond. And basically what is required is that we need to dredge the pond. Over the last 20-odd years, there has been a significant build-up of sediment and nutrients and silt in the pond, at the bottom of the pond. And this creates an algae which then decays, and the decaying algae is what you actually see on the surface of the pond there at the moment now. It looks very like oil, but it's an oily, filmy substance, but it actually is decaying algae, which is created by nutrient-rich silt and sediment at the bottom of the pond. So that needs to be dredged, and to do that we need £100,000. Now, the engineers in Cork Corporation have undertaken a hydrographic survey of the pond. They know what has to be done. We set ourselves a target of raising approximately 50% of the cost of the dredging. We've already, this year, in my capacity as Lord Mayor, we have raised about 30,000 so far. I'm hoping by the time I finish that we'll be closer to 50, because there's a number of other ideas around and contexts that hopefully will bear fruit between now and the time I hand over office. And then we would go to the corporation, and the initial agreement was that the corporation would go pound for pound with the fundraising committee to have the pond dredged. I literally have visited every single company now in the Centre Park Road and the Monaghan Road and in the general locality, and in business, big businesses and concerns in the city. And I've been tremendously impressed by the enormous goodwill by the business community to this project.
Can we look back into the history of the pond just for a moment or two?
Became a main drainage sump after 1902, and it was known locally as the Crinoline Pond at one stage. Essentially, we're at the location of the Great Eastern Marsh of Cork, and the pond is in many ways the last remnant or legacy of the Great Eastern Marsh. As you know, Cork is derived from the Gaelic term Corcach, and Cork was known as Corcach Mór na Mún, the Great Marsh of Munster. And this area here was where the Great Eastern Marsh was, and it developed over time. The city fathers from about the 1860 onwards developed a city wall down towards this general direction and covered in the slobland and so on like that. And there was a race course here at one stage, and in many ways I suppose it's part and parcel of the history of the area, and countless generations of Cork people have derived tremendous benefit and enjoyment from walking around the pond and continuing on then down the old Blackrock railway line down towards Mahon and Passage now. And you can walk the whole way down there, as you know, courtesy of the amenity walk, which was created by Cork Corporation a number of years ago. So the pond has a very strong history. Not only is it an important environmental and amenity resource for the city, it's also important historically and has tremendous history attached to it.
When this remedial work is completed, would you see the pond becoming something of a wildlife sanctuary?
I've already asked the Wild Bird Conservancy organisation in Cork to actually prepare a management plan for wildlife for the pond in the years ahead, in the aftermath of it being dredged. And in fairness to the corporation staff themselves in the environmental section, they have very ambitious plans for the pond as well. And I think, in fairness to them, they have been monitoring the situation very effectively over the last number of years. A number of the environmental structures have now been put in place in a lot of the adjoining companies, so that ongoing pollution of the pond will not be a problem as it was, say, 5 to 10 years ago. So I'm very optimistic about the future of the pond once we can raise the necessary finance to have it dredged. And then we can do the extras like creating a management plan for wildlife in the pond and developing the footpaths, have a footpath renewal scheme here, and also the general landscaping of the area to improve that. And I think it will be a marvellous amenity for the generations to come.
Cork is one of the finest sports stadiums in the country. It was opened in 1976 at a cost of over £1 million, and it replaced the old athletic grounds which were established in 1898. Tom Cashman and his family have had a long association with sport in the Blackrock area over many years.
My first recollection would be going way back to 1956. I wasn't born then, but my father was involved. He was captain of the Blackrock team to bring the county back to Blackrock after a lapse of 25 years, which was a long time being out of the limelight for a famous club like Blackrock. But that county is still being talked about.
Tom, your own particular sport is hurling. Can you tell me how you first got involved in that?
Well, I suppose we started really in the schools, in Blackrock Primary, George Cashel and Willie Walsh, where they started up a team there, and we kind of grew from there. Went on to play with the parish leagues in Blackrock. Great rivalry between Village and Marion and Ballinlough and all these teams in Ballintemple. But then we progressed on to Bordenog. Blackrock were the first team to win Féil na Gael in 1971, and we kind of went on to be minors and represent the club in senior into county level.
Well, Tom, as you've said, hurling is your particular sport, but there are other sports available in the Blackrock area too, aren't there?
There is. I think the area has expanded quite a bit, and population has got much bigger, and there's quite a variety of sports right around. You have the golf club over in Mahanow, you have pitch and putt in Dunlops, St Michael's Tennis Club. The Old Erskines are very strong in hockey, of course. The schools, I think, are instilling a sporting attitude into the pupils now, which is very important, keeping people off the streets. And with the river next door, you have got regattas and Lee Rowing Club. Cork Constitution above in Temple Hill are very, very strong, and I think there is quite a variety now of sports for all ages and people around the moment.
The village of Blackrock is one of the oldest fishing villages in Ireland, and it is situated in the parish of St Michael's. The village itself was once part of the ancient Dundanian Quay, and when a castle was erected nearby in 1604 to defend the upper harbour, the little hamlet became a garrison village. During the close of the 18th century and the early years of the 19th century, the parish saw many of the nobility and gentry moving out of the city and settling in the area. This was due to the rapid increase in commercial life within the city centre. And some of the stately homes can still be seen today, especially along the Castle Road and Blackrock Road. Religious communities also took advantage of the tranquility and beauty of the area, such as the Ursuline Sisters and the Sisters of the Sacred Heart, who opened in 1922, where the Cork Heritage Park is situated. It was also the seat of the Right Reverend William Delaney, who was Bishop of Cork from 1847 to 1884, and his palace was situated on Castle Road in a house now known as Rosetta. The commercial life of the area was once comprised of a limeworks, a brickworks, a market garden and a quarry at Beaumont. Looking back over the years, very little structural change has taken place in this once sleepy rural village, and because of this, it has a steady flow of visitors all the year round. Of course, the most famous landmark in Blackrock has to be Blackrock Castle. It was first built by the then Viceroy of Ireland, Lord Mountjoy, in 1604 as part of the defences of Cork. During the 18th and 19th centuries, the castle was used for corporation banquets, and the most popular of these was the throwing of the dart ceremony, which signified the mayor's jurisdiction over the harbour. In 1827, after one of these luncheons, the old castle was destroyed by fire. The present castle was built for the corporation in 1829 by the Payne brothers at a cost of £1,000. Over the years, it served various purposes. It was the headquarters of a boating club, a Sinn Féin office, a military post, a private residence, and in more recent times it has become a restaurant. The present owners of Blackrock Castle are Liam Barrett and his family. Liam, can you fill me in on something of the background of Blackrock Castle as a restaurant?
Yes, in 1968 Blackrock Castle was taken over by a group of Cork businessmen, and they did a lot of refurbishment and put it into its present form. They ran it as a high quality restaurant during the 70s, and they were subsequently followed by the Imperial Hotel for about 10 years. And in 1987 then, for a further 5 years, the castle was run by the McCarthy family, who are from Blackrock. We took it over recently, and we are now developing the business in a variety of new directions. We are encouraging the development of the restaurant, both dinner and lunch, and we're extending the opening hours because we're finding a lot of new interest in our attractive new menus and in our attractive prices which we're introducing.
Liam, Blackrock Castle is more than a restaurant. It has something special, hasn't it?
This was one of the attractions for us in purchasing Blackrock Castle. We had found that everybody spoke to us. They spoke about the landmark nature of the building and the attractiveness of it. We feel that it has prestige, and therefore as a centre of entertainment, as a centre for dining and wining and for going out, it is something special, and therefore we are going to build on that very special quality.
So your plans for the future would be to very much lean on the heritage aspect of the castle?
Yes, we would certainly utilise the heritage aspect. We are encouraging the development of the castle as a bigger centre for tourist attraction. We're going to encourage an existing business, which is the traditional Irish evenings. We have lots of tourists coming. They come here for dinner and for traditional Irish song, dance, music, storytelling, and some very convivial evenings. And we're going to expand that as our theme for the evening dinner business.
And looking to the future, Liam, what are your plans?
Well, our plans for the future are to grow the business from what has been done in recent years, where we cater for functions, weddings, parties, anniversaries and so on, to pay particular attention to a number of aspects. We intend to encourage the dinner business, and we're expanding the opening hours and the lunch business. We're going to make the castle available more for community groups in Blackrock in particular, but citywide. If they can use the castle for their fundraising events, we're very happy to make that available. And we're going to pay particular attention to a theme for the castle, which is the traditional Irish evening. We do some traditional music, song, dance, which is very popular at present, and we think that that, with tourists and Cork people alike, will be very popular for the future.
If we were permitted to return to the townland of Mahon a century ago, we would have seen a wooded area covered with foliage and dotted with stately homes belonging to some of the great Cork families. By the river you could have viewed the ruined walls of the O'Mahonys, after whom the town and loch are named. Today many of these stately homes have gone, and the ground upon which they stood is now occupied by housing and industrial estates, schools, churches, sporting complexes, amenity parks and roads. A parish since 1986, Mahon is fast becoming a self-contained town. And with the opening of the Central Statistics Office in 1994 and the construction of the River Lee Tunnel, the future for Mahon, and indeed for the whole Blackrock area, is looking good.